Did you know technically a team can make it to overtime but not get a single point? It's true, and this is a somewhat obscure rule that most people haven't even heard of. According to the NHL overtime rules, specifically Rule 84.2, a team is allowed to pull its goalkeeper and get an extra skater in overtime. However, if they do so and lose with the extra skater, they forfeit the 1 point that's automatically awarded if the game goes into overtime. I checked Hockey Reference by searching the term pulled goalie in OT, and it seems like this has only happened twice. Unfortunately, at least as of now, I can't find any videos, but on April 7th, 2000, the Vancouver Canucks lost to the Edmonton Oilers 5-4 in overtime with an empty net. On March 25th, 2003, the LA Kings lost to the Columbus Blue Jackets, same thing, no goalie. In both those cases, the losing team doesn't get a single point. I haven't been able to find much about the Edmonton game, but there was an interesting article on the Kings loss. Coach Andy Murray pulled Cristobal Huet in overtime in order to try to stay alive in the playoff race. They needed 2 points, and keep in mind this was before the shootout, so the game could end in a tie with both teams just getting a point. As said, Andrew Castles ended up scoring an empty net goal with 48 seconds left, and LA would lose the overtime point. They would also be out of the playoff race, and I gotta say, that's kind of an interesting scenario. I'm not sure how I feel about the rule overall. There aren't many situations where you're going to take that risk. Pretty much the only scenario you'd see this happen, at least ordinarily, would be an offensive zone face-off with just a couple of seconds left on the clock. We saw LA do this against Boston in 2017, and I'm sure it's happened since. In that case, they scored, so the rule doesn't matter. And I'm not saying also that those 2 games that I mentioned earlier are the only 2 times the rule's actually been used. There could be others, just not any that I found. I don't know, they could probably make the rule a bit more spicy by making it so if you score with your goalie pulled, the other team doesn't get any points or something, but it's a pretty obscure rule. Also, for those wondering, if you get a goal scored on an empty net because of a delayed penalty, that does not count. One last thing, because I know some of you were wondering this. How does the NHL video games handle this rule? Well, it doesn't. Unfortunately, there's no NHL on PC, so I didn't capture any footage, but I took a game to overtime, pulled my goalie, intentionally went offside, so the game knew I had the extra attacker on, then let them score. It just gave me 1 point for the loss. And to be honest, I would have been shocked had it been otherwise, because, well, that's the EA NHL games for you. But yeah, how would you like to see this rule? Have you seen teams pull the goalie in overtime? Do you think with the shootout and no more ties that the rule should be somewhat changed to maybe encourage more risky plays? Let me know all of that and more down below.